Welcome. I'm Sandra Onfung, founder and host of Rivertown Poets in Petaluma, California. Today, we're fortunate to have a chance to talk with Sonoma County poet Vilma Ginzberg. Welcome, Vilma.
Hi, it's nice to be here, Sandra. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's great to have you. I'll begin by sharing a little bit about Vilma's background and accomplishments. Vilma Ginzberg is a poet, writer, and healer. She worked as a psychotherapist for 4 decades in Wisconsin before moving to California in the early 1990s. She was named the fifth Healdsburg Literary Laureate for 2008 and 2009. In 2004, at age 77, Vilma published the first of her seven books of poetry, Colors of Glass, followed by Murmurs and Outcries in 2007, Snake Pit in 2010, I Don't Know How to Do This, Poems on Aging in 2011, Making Noise in 2013, Octogenarian on Fire in 2018, and the latest book, 90 is the New, in 2018. She has completed her first 2 volumes of memoir, When the Iris Blooms in 2012 and Mostly Roses in 2015, and she continues to work on others. Vilma's work has appeared in the anthologies Present at the Creation 2006, A Day in the Life of Healdsburg 2007, Sometimes in the Open 2009, When the Muse Calls 2009, Continent of Light 2011, World of Change 2014, and Cry of the Nightbird 2014. She has read her poems at many local and area venues and is proud to support the global peace and justice movement, 1,000 Poets for Change. Her reading of 5 fire poems about the October 2017 Santa Rosa, California fires has appeared on PBS station KRCB TV. And you can learn a lot more about Vilma and read some of her poetry on her beautiful website, vilmaginzberg.com. I'll spell it for you, VilmaGinzberg.com. Without further ado, I would like to welcome Vilma Ginzberg.
Thank you so much, Sandra.
So Vilma and I decided to have a conversation today, and I have some open-ended questions to ask, and be excited to hear what she shares with us. So Vilma, I'd like to start by asking, how and when did poetry come into your life?
It must have been pretty early because I remember my 3rd grade teacher, her name was Emma Hansen. I was in a small school where there were so few 3rd and 4th graders that we fit in one classroom. She had 2 rows of 4th graders and 3 rows of 3rd graders. And I loved Miss Hansen because she liked my poetry. And she made a little school newspaper so that I could see my poems in print. How is that for encouragement?
That is really special and really early, and that's wonderful.
Yes.
That you were so young. Great. Thank you. And was there, did you continue writing from that early age on, or was it kind of intermittent through your life?
I think I have to say that I couldn't help myself. Poetry would come to me. You know, it's sort of like, I don't know if it is for anyone else, but when words start forming in my head in certain kind of chains, that they have a poetic lilt to them. I know they're poetry and not something else. And I have to write them down in poetry form. And that's happened to me all of my life. I've always loved reading poetry. And so I think there's something just built in, maybe. I don't know how else to say that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I've had that experience myself with the language that comes out feels like poetry.
Yes.
Have you ever woken up from a dream and with a poem on your tongue and just started written it down or repeated it?
I can't think of a time at this moment, but probably, I don't know.
Yeah, I've had that experience. All right.
I know that sometimes poetry intrudes on my day, what I'm doing in my day. It just intrudes. It happens in my head, and it has a kind of evanescence. If I don't write it down right then, right there, I will lose it. And I have come to know that. So if whatever I'm doing is interruptible at all, I have to interrupt it to write down the phrases so that they're not lost. I've stopped my car on the side of the road to write some phrases. I've turned the stove off to write phrases in the middle of making dinner, things like that.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
wonderful. So it's almost like a soundtrack always kind of
Yeah.
running inside of your head. I love it. All right. So tell us a little bit about your career as a psychotherapist and how your writing life intersects with that, if it does.
Yeah. Well, yeah. What can I say? I loved my work. I miss my work, actually. Still miss my work. I loved my work. I married a man very much older, more than twice my age, and I knew that he had a limited life to live when I married him. Those were the conditions of our marriage. We had 4 years of marriage together. I knew him for 6 altogether. And and we yielded a daughter. His first, when he was 58, he thought he invented fatherhood. At that age, he walked around like he invented it. After he died, I took his insurance money, which doesn't seem like a lot now, but at the time in the early 50s or mid 50s was a lot of money, $20,000. I'd never had that much in my hand at the same moment at one time. I invested it in my graduate school. I went to graduate school in psychology so that I would be credentialed and have a way of supporting myself and my daughter, our daughter. So I went to the University of Madison in Madison and did that. And then I found a job in a rural mental health center. It was actually, it hasn't been created yet. There were 2 people who were trying to create a child guidance clinic in rural Wisconsin. And I visited them and they said, yeah, you're just the person we need. Do you have a job? Do you need a job? And the 3 of us built this mental health center. We were all visionaries in a way. We were outsiders to the rural Wisconsin cow country. Yet when we were commissioned by the county to start a child guidance clinic, we knew we couldn't do that. We knew we could not do that. You can't treat a child and send it back to the same place that it got the way it was. So we said the first 6 months we would not see clients, but we would go out to the community and ask what they needed. And we asked the guidance counselors in high school, we asked the teachers in grade school, we asked the public health nurse, we asked everybody that we could that dealt with children, what did they need in terms of mental health services? And we built our clinic from that. And it was the wisest thing we ever did because what we built was accepted by the county, by the people of the county. And it was wonderful. It was a wonderful time. I loved that work. It was creative. It was wonderful. We did things nobody ever thought to do. I loved it.
It sounds like a very cutting edge approach for that time, especially to go out and really see what was needed.
I think it was.
Yeah. And did you write about your clients or those experiences?
I did not. Somebody asked me well into my writing and publishing whether I did ever done that. And I looked back to see, and I really did not have very much in that regard. And then I wrote one or two things more, and finally put it out as a chapbook called Snake Pit.
Mm.
As during my one summer when I was in college, I went to work for the summer as an attendant in the place that had been known as the Snake Pit, where the woman who wrote the book Snake Pit had been a patient. And so that was one of my books about, that was about the only one. Otherwise I did not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Would you like to read a poem from that chapbook? We would love it if you would.
Oh, well, yes. I'd love to. Weighing in. Cold blue strobe from the TV screen mindlessly lights but a small patch of empty night. Hunched into the lumpy growls of the old futon, she wolfs down bowlfuls of comfort. Ice cream, corn chips, chocolate chips, all laced with words she cannot utter. Loneliness beyond voice, outrage no one hears, love that cannot be swallowed, stuck in her throat. Until, stopped only by her errant body's groaning limitations, she hugs herself in self-knit blankets of fears that cannot warm her, regrets that let the shivers in, burgeoning layers of struggle, paralyzed, and feels the weight like lover turned rapist, layering on, layering on.
So
And here's a better one. That's one of showing how the sickness happens. And this is about healing. It's called Where the Scar Is. Touch me where I'm tender. Touch me where I yield. Touch me where you mustn't. There the scar is. Touch me where I'm hungry. Touch me where I hurt. Touch me where you mustn't, where the scar is. Touch me where I'm lonely. Touch me where I weep. Touch me where you mustn't, where the scar is. Touch me where I'm frozen. Touch me where I cringe. Touch me where you mustn't, where the scar is. Touch me in the never, touch me in the not, touch me in the nowhere, touch me not, where the scar is. Touch me when I trust you. Touch me when I ask. Touch me when I'm ready, where the scar is. Touch me with your kindness. Touch me where I know. Touch me. Make me tougher where the scar was.
Beautiful. Very, very powerful and affecting and raw, but also very tender poem. I like the repetition.
Thank you.
It really worked well there. Oh, thank you so much. So I'm curious, Vilma, are there other art forms that you've dabbled in or practiced? Visual art or music, or besides poetry?
No, not really. No. The answer is no.
And have you written in other forms?
I have. I have written memoir for what I call family stories for my granddaughter. Mostly roses, if it's not too shiny.
We can see that. We can see it.
Wait a minute. Mostly Roses is family stories for my granddaughter about the family that she came through. My parents, my growing up, her mother, and her mother's childhood, and so on. So this is Mostly Roses. I was married to a man who had a very important personal and political and professional history. And I wanted my granddaughter to know whom she came through genetically, So I wrote stories about my 6 years of knowing him and the stories he told me about his life and what he had done in his life. And this was the book, When the Iris Blooms.
Mm.
The title comes from a poem by Mary Coleridge. Some hang above the tombs, some weep in empty rooms. I, when the iris blooms, remember.
Mm. Beautiful.
And so this is I Remember. And this is a picture of him.
Oh, wonderful. Thanks for sharing that. Oh, he was an MD. Mhm. Wonderful.
So,
Thank you, Vilma.
yes.
I noticed your full name on there, and I failed to say it when I read your bio. I wasn't sure how to pronounce your second name. Is it Olsvary? Is that correct?
All's very, as in all's very well, thank you.
I love that.
I taught fifth grade for 2 years between college and going to graduate school. And I remember writing my name on the blackboard for the children, fifth graders, Miss Olsvary. They didn't know how to say it, Olsvary. So I told them it was pronounced as if you were saying, all's very well, thank you. The next day, I didn't put it on the board, and they were calling me all's good, all's well, and lots of other things. It was cute.
Sweet. Thank you for that. All right. Let's see. Do you feel like there has been a kind of a thematic trajectory to your poetry? Or I know I noticed that in my own work. It changes at times, but for years, sometimes there'll be kind of a theme that runs like a thread through it, or maybe more than one.
Mhm. Well, let's see. I don't know exactly how to answer that. The earliest poem I wrote that I found that I had kept, that I put them away in cardboard boxes. And then when I moved, I would move the boxes and say, I'm going to go through these and, edit and collect. I never did that. And finally, when I downsized to come to friend's house 6 years ago, I didn't have the time or the energy to go through those, and they all went to the dump. But so most of my books, current works, are current, have been written since I moved here. But I found one that was written probably in my 30s, and it's called Encounter. And maybe I can read this. It's very short.
Please do.
You touched down like a flat stone skimming off my lake's shiny surface. And I, fluid, eager, reached for you as the water kisses the stone on its leaving.
Oh.
Now my wave rings of response dying, I become again placid. Little did I know how deeply you would settle in me.
Oh,
I thought that was in response to, we all have people, maybe more than one person, who somehow touches our lives in some way that changes us profoundly. It may be a professor we only had for a short time. It may be someone we met on an airplane trip and never saw again. It may be a close friend who then passed, and grandpa we only knew a short time, and so on. But that's for that kind of thing that happens to us when someone somehow special touches our life and then is gone.
Beautifully put. And the poem is almost like a long haiku. It's just not an extra word.
Yes.
And I love all the water imagery. So thank you for sharing.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. So what have you been working on lately during the pandemic when we've had so much time to write?
Yes. Well, they say write what you know, and one of the few things that I know something about these days is getting older. So a lot of my poems have to do with getting older. Um, um, but occasionally there's something that does not.
I think we will take a little break and don't go anywhere. We'll be back with part two. We'll hear lots more of Vilma's poetry. So
Thank you.
please stay tuned and we'll see you in a few minutes.